Thank you so much, Lucy, for your kind introduction. And thank you all for your interest in this session. We are delighted to see so many of you here today in cyberspace. I'm Herbert Puchta, and with me is my co-author and colleague, Chris Jory.
Hi, everyone.
Chris and I have been conducting a research project into working with mixed abilities for several years, which has culminated in our upcoming resource book, Differentiation in ELT. The course book we are launching today, you've read from the abstract that we are launching our new course book for lower secondary learners, so young teenagers today. The course book is called Options. And that is another outcome of our research into differentiation, and for good reason. We realized early on that most teachers do not have enough time to differentiate their teaching as much as they would like, basically because of their workload. I don't need to tell you. That's something we hear from teachers a lot. So we developed the concept of a course book that would provide what we believe to be a unique and complete solution to the challenges of the mixed ability classroom. Chris and I are confident that you will not have seen what we are going to show you today in any other course book for adolescents, nor for any other age group, concerning the support it gives teachers and learners for differentiated teaching and learning. This is actually, this here is the cover of the resource book that Chris and I have written. It's a forthcoming book. It's going to be published in a few weeks' time. The book we have written on differentiation. And we would like to start this session with a quote about differentiation. This quote that comes from Hattie and Zira. This quote has somehow become our guiding principle in our thinking about differentiation, in our developing of ideas and strategies for differentiation, and also in the development of our new course book, Options. In this webinar, we'll provide you with examples from Options that align with our beliefs about what's necessary for teaching adolescents. And here we go with this quotation: "The purpose of education should never be to meet the needs of children." What a lowly aspiration this is that helps keep kids in their place. The rich man in the castle, the poor boy and girl at the gate. The purpose of education should not be to help students reach their potential, as again, this lowers the aspirations for many and defeats the purpose of schooling. The prime purpose of education is to help students exceed what they think is their potential, to see in students something they may not see in themselves, and to imbue them with our passion for learning. And this is what we are going to be talking about today in this webinar. And we are asking you to quickly complete this STEM sentence here: to learn successfully, adolescents want or need to. Could you please just key a few ideas into the chat box? Be listened to, collaborate, lovely, yes, have fun, be engaged, do projects, they need trust, work in teams, have an interest, motivation, be appreciated, be motivated, feel comfortable, and so on and so forth. Thanks for these great ideas. We would like to add a few here. This is all about doing meaningful things, in collaboration with others, explore relevant content, have fun, as several of you have said, be inspired. Let's not forget, this is a visual generation. Be inspired by up-to-date video genres and help with how to study effectively. And with that, I'm actually handing over to my colleague, Chris Jory.
Thank you, Herbert. Hello, everyone. Nice to be here with you today. Let's look at the other side of the coin now. So let's think about what do you as teachers need in order to teach younger teenagers successfully. We have a few ideas that we'll put on the screen in a minute, but first, again, we're interested in your ideas. So if you can just type a few points into the chat, what is it you think you need to teach lower age teenagers successfully? So we've got to be prepared, motivation, updated material, customized lessons. You need to understand your students. Yeah, absolutely key. Using technology, empathy. Yeah, needing to be friendly and approachable. Clear objectives. Make sure that learning materials reflect their experience, their interests. Insight and support. Yeah, absolutely great ideas. Okay, Herbert, if you can click again, thank you. So what we have on the screen here is by no means a complete list. These are just three key points that occurred to us that we think we can help you with, because, you know, teachers are really busy. It's hard for you to come up with all the solutions all the time. So, you know, a really key thing is having a teaching approach, a methodology that actually really works well in the classroom. We think we can help you with that with options. Materials that effectively cater for mixed abilities. So we've mentioned, or Herbert mentioned, differentiation already. We're going to be talking a lot about differentiated teaching and learning in today's webinar. I think we all know that the reality is that all classes are really mixed ability classes. All classes contain students with different competencies, different levels, different needs, different interests. And, you know, you can do things in different ways to help mixed abilities, but also sometimes you just need content or materials that also caters for those mixed abilities. And then the third bullet point here, someone mentioned actually being informed and having insights about your learners. This is really key, and assessment is key to that. Assessment meaning tests, but also your observation in the classroom. And we think we can help you with an answer to that in terms of how you can do that regularly and often, so that you have those insights into your learners as individuals, so that you can help them as individuals as well as a whole class. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, why would we give you all those things? Well, you know, so that you can concentrate on doing what human beings, what, you know, teachers do best, which is not necessarily spending hours and hours of your time on preparation and creating materials, but instead doing the things that humans can do that, you know, materials and technology can't do. Things like creating a positive classroom environment, helping your students with their motivation and their own attitude towards learning, having that growth mindset where they really believe they can reach their potential and indeed go beyond it, and giving you time to care for your students' well-being and indeed your own, so you're not, you know, completely overworked and have no time for anything else. Next slide, please, Herbert. So in terms of differentiation, there are many ways that you could define differentiation. Herbert and I particularly like this quotation here from Caroline Tomlinson, saying that differentiating instruction is really about doing what's fair for students. It means creating multiple paths, multiple learning paths, so that students of different abilities or interests, needs, can experience equally appropriate ways to learn. So it's about being fair to your students. Easier said than done, but we'll show you how we think we can help you with that. Next slide, I think back to Herbert.
Thank you, Chris. Now, this slide shows you the 10 most impactful teaching strategies according to the latest research. And quite fascinatingly, we can see that differentiated learning and differentiated teaching, that is actually the last one in the list here, because they are not arranged in any particular order, is actually the one that has the biggest effect size. It can have an effect size between 0.5 and 1.28. And when you look at the right-hand side of the screen, this is what researchers say about effect size. It's a measure of how well an intervention has worked in varying contexts, okay? And you can see that 0.5 is regarded as medium in terms of effect size, and 0.8 is regarded as large. And that tells us how important differentiated teaching can actually be. It's the most impactful strategy that we can possibly use. Now, from the literature on differentiation, there is actually clarity as to the areas of differentiation. So we can differentiate content. Students can actually work, not all the time, obviously, but occasionally work on different content. The product is what they are supposed to produce. So this is about speaking and writing in the classroom. The process is about the kind of process they use in order to, for example, I don't know, read a text, listen to some audio, study certain words, etc., etc. And last but not least, researchers are talking about the environment, so the supportive classroom environment which learning and teaching takes place. And of course, we've added this here, that teaching materials are also part of that environment. This is options. These are the covers of our students' books. And we are now going to quickly go through a unit with you. We are not going into any detail whatsoever, but we will focus, as you will see, on what we somehow call the jewels of differentiation, okay? So that's where we will stop and elaborate a little bit. So this unit is about, as you can see, the price of fame. Adolescents love famous people. They adore them, but we're not going to go into the content. You can see from the unit titled The Price of Fame that we are looking at both sides of the coin, and we're not just, you know, doing another unit that just praises celebrities. A key point, and you will notice why we're saying that a bit later, is that we give them the objectives, the learning objectives at the beginning of the unit. That's done in many course books, but you will see what we do with them later on. We're using documentary style videos, vocabulary introduced in context, in meaningful context. That's not new. A grammar and vocabulary and speaking spread, where we introduce or pick up on a grammar point that was introduced previously, inductive approach with rule completion, and then receptive and productive exercises. This is not new. Of course, what is also not new is vocabulary and speaking activities. The second grammar point, and then listening and speaking, we'll come back to that. Now, this is the first jewel of differentiation, if you like. We would like to elaborate on a little bit. This is the main reading text in the unit. And as we know, in what happens in the classroom, because any and every classroom is a mixed ability classroom, that often the main reading text is too difficult for some learners and maybe not challenging enough for other learners. This is level 3, so it's actually a B1 text. Well, when you look at this, then you can see that down here we say options, and it says basic text and enriched text. So this is the basic text. Again, this is the standard text version, the one you have just seen. It's, by the way, an interesting and lovely story about this Liverpool footballer, Mo Salah, who is actually said to be a wonderful human being. There were these two boys, two brothers, they were waiting outside of the stadium in Liverpool for the players to come out. They were hoping to get some autographs. And they saw that Mo Salah was driving out in his car, and the boys ran after him. They were so excited. They ran after the car, and the younger of the two brothers actually ran into a lamp post and broke his nose. It's a true story, and this is actually based on an authentic newspaper report. The lovely story, the lovely thing about this story is that Mo Salah, as soon as he noticed that, he observed the boys in the rear mirror. He got out of his car, ran back, helped the boy, phoned the boy's family and the ambulance, and he was waiting there, and he was supporting the boy and caring for this boy. So that's the standard text level B1. We have another two versions. Students working with the ebook just need to click on enriched text, or you can, of course, select the enriched text for them if they want or need a more challenging text. You can see this text, it's longer, it has richer vocabulary, it has more challenging sentence constructions, and also more challenging grammar. And then, of course, we know there are other kids in class who need more support. So they're actually not discouraged. So they actually want to decode the text. And for them, they can click on what is called the basic version of the text. You can see what we're doing here. There is less complicated language. The vocabulary is easier, simpler. The sentence constructions are easier to access. And then on top of all that, we have a graphic story that supports the decoding of the text. So this is what we're doing. And now, of course, the question is, learners might have worked on 3 different versions of the same text. The key question is, how can I bring them back together again after they've read 3 different versions of a text? Now let's go back to the standard version that they also have in the book here. Now what we have following the standard version of the text is a set of comprehension tasks. As you can see, 3 true, false, 3 sentence completion activities, and 3 questions. And the good thing about this is that no matter which of the 3 versions they have read, they can all do, at least in principle. Of course, some will not be able to maybe do the questions because they do a little bit of inferencing meaning. But in principle, they can all do all of these activities, no matter which of these they have read. Likewise, the vocabulary work here is something that can be done by all of them. And of course, what we want them to encourage is that they read, that they do not just read, for example, a weaker student, so to speak, reads the graphic story. We want to encourage them to go on then and also read the standard. Maybe later, when they've done that with several texts, also read the enriched version. This, by the way, is the case with every main reading text in the unit, both in the student's book and in the workbook. Over to Chris Jory.
Okay, thank you. So Herbert was telling you there about what we do in terms of differentiation for reading. Turning now to the other receptive skill, listening, of course. There are various things that we can do in terms of differentiation here. There are things that are in the digital package that students can listen to at home that we'll come on to a bit later in the webinar. But obviously in the classroom, probably you're going to be playing the same piece of audio for the whole class. But what we have here in the listening lesson, or to help you with differentiation in the listening lesson, is a very neat audio player. You can see that image in the top right of the audio player. And what this does is address a key issue, which a lot of students can have difficulty with when they encounter a fast or relatively fast or even normal speed stream of natural speech, they often find it difficult to distinguish between chunks of language where one chunk starts and finishes and the next one begins, or individual words, and being able to actually tell where these boundaries are between individual words or chunks of language is a really important bottom-up listening skill. But it's very hard to acquire that skill if the language is just spoken too quickly, and students tend to throw their hands up in the air and say, I don't understand anything, I give up. So this audio player allows you in the classroom as a teacher, but also the students at home when they're listening at home, to slow the audio down to 90% or 80% or 70% of the full speed without distorting the speech. That's a really important point. And then they can increase the speed, or you in the classroom can increase the speed back up to 100% when students are ready. So this is a nice little tool, a digital tool, that allows for that kind of differentiation when it comes to listening by differentiating the speed of the delivery of the audio. Okay, moving on to the next slide, please. In terms of speaking, moving to productive skills, we also differentiate when it comes to speaking and writing. In the speaking lesson, what we have here is a lesson where the functional exponent is about giving advice. When it comes to the production stage and what the students actually are asked to produce themselves, and this is a regular feature in options. It's called options for a reason, because we give option A or option B as a productive task. And here, there's a scenario where students are going to be giving advice to a friend, but the two tasks, A and B, differ in that task A is a bit less challenging. It offers more scaffolding and more support, requires fewer ideas from the learners themselves, whereas option B actually challenges them more, is more extended, and requires more from them. Moving on to the next slide, please. Similarly, when we come to writing, there's a writing page in every unit, and each of these pages focuses on a particular genre of writing. In this case, it's an email giving advice. It's in the same unit as the giving advice speaking lesson. We always have a model text, and there's some analysis of the model text to help the students. And then when it comes to the productive task, again, of course, it's called options. We give option A or option B in terms of the productive task that the students then do, one being more challenging and one less challenging. Probably to begin with, it's a good idea if you as the teacher sort of guide the students towards which of these, A or B, they might be, best suited to do. But over time, it's a good idea, obviously, to involve them in the process of deciding, how do I feel today? How confident am I? Do I want to do the simpler option A, or do I feel confident? Am I going to go for option B? But we give that choice, and we give those options. Okay, moving on to the next slide, please. Then coming to the end of the unit, that yellow page there, the last page of every unit, is a review page which recaps the key vocabulary and grammar from the unit. A couple of really key things on this page, really important things. There were very clear learning objectives on the first page of the unit, and we prompt students here to go back to that first page and to really think about those learning goals, the things that they're expected to know and to be able to do by the end of the unit, and to think about and discuss with their partner how confident they are about those different goals and how well they think they can cope with them now at the end of the unit. It's perfectly natural and perfectly normal that there will be a range of responses to that question. Some students will feel really confident about everything, others less so, and there'll be a whole mix of reactions. So different students at that point, at the end of the unit, will have different needs in terms of what they need to focus on and do extra work on. So the second key thing here, and we'll tell you a lot more about this a bit later in the webinar, is that box in the bottom right-hand corner, what we call the personal learning track, which is something that they do online within Helbling's learning platform, the eZone. And it gives each student personalized practice depending on their individual needs. And we'll tell you a lot more about that in a few minutes. Okay, moving on to the next slide, please. So yeah, let's just sort of have a look at where we've got to so far. So in terms of things that we mentioned at the beginning that we think teenagers need in order to learn successfully. So doing meaningful tasks with the other students in class, doing them together, exploring content that makes them feel that they're being taken seriously, not just in terms of their interests and the kind of world that they inhabit and the things that they're actually interested in, but also being taken seriously as learners who have, different needs as well and are at slightly different points in their learning journey. And by giving them different content that they feel comfortable with and they can be successful with, we're taking them seriously in that sense as well. The third bullet point here, the next on the list, which we'll come to now, is, it's important to have fun while you're learning. It's a serious process. You need to have serious results, but it needs to be fun as well. How do we do that? So one way in which we do that is via songs. And Herbert is our DJ today. He's going to play you as much as he feels is necessary to give you a flavor of the kind of song that we have. And I'll leave you in his capable hands now.
When I need a friend, you listen to what I say. You are always there for me and help me through the day. I'm often a bit shy and don't know what to say, but you are very sporty and always want to play. Can you keep a secret? What do you say? Do you want to play with me? Are we best friends today? Can you keep a secret? What do you say?
Unfortunately, for time reasons, we have to cut it here. But you're going to have to hear something else, which is also at least rhythmic, and that is a grammar rap. Why do we actually mention songs and raps when it comes to differentiation? Because one of the key things about differentiated learning is that we need to give our students a multiplicity of exposure to language. And things such as rhythm and rhyme and good tunes, they help learners, for example, to retain chunks of language, lexicogrammatical chunks, and of course also grammar. So what we've done with grammar is that on the one hand, of course, we use rules and we give them lots of activities, not only in the students, also in the workbook. And we also do grammar raps where we have a little bit of animation also, and the language on the page. And I'm going to show you an example now, or actually in two parts. That is not from this level 3. It's about past tense and negation of past tense. Here we go. Past simple.
And now clap, clap, clap for the grammar rap. And today it's
Past simple.
yeah, yeah. I went. Ha. You didn't go. Nah. He knew. Yeah, yeah. She didn't know. Ha. We left. Uh-huh. They didn't leave. There was a party for Maya and Steve. Yoo-hoo!
And the next slide. Come on.
And now clap, clap, clap for the grammar rap. And today it's
Past simple.
I'm sorry about this. I went back to the wrong one.
for the grammar rap. You need to clap, clap, clap. But don't stop there, there's more to share. Yeah.
I went to the party, but you didn't go.
Yeah.
He knew when it started,
Alright.
but she didn't know.
Let's get it.
We left really early. They didn't leave till late.
Alright.
The party was a disaster.
Yeah.
It really wasn't great. They danced really badly. We didn't dance at all. David spent all night looking at the wall. You wore your best clothes. I wore a fancy dress. The party was a disaster. It really was a mess.
Okay, thanks so much. And thanks for your positive feedback there in the chat box. This is what we said. We have shown you ideas on how to have fun in a differentiated course book. And Chris is now going to be talking about what we can do to inspire our visual young people who live in a very visual culture with the help of up-to-date video genres. Chris.
Okay. Thank you. So, yeah, I mean, video is such a huge part of teenagers' lives these days on TikTok or wherever they find it. And, you know, a diverse range of video genres is really key. And we offer a diverse range of video genres in options, things like animated stories, documentary videos, real life stories filmed in this case, a cafe. We've got the grammar raps, we've got video associated with sustainable development goals, etc. We're going to show you, I think, 3 types of video now to give you a bit more of a flavor of the kind of thing that you get. So the one that's coming up is called the After School Club, and it's like a soap opera with kids of this kind of age group in an after school club in the UK. This is the kind of thing where if the parents are working, for example, still sort of in the afternoon and the kids have to stay at school, they go to this after school club where they do activities that are not proper lessons, but they socialize and do things that are fun. And we're going to show you an episode of this now. I hope you enjoy it.
After school club, come and meet the friends. It's the after school club, come and meet the friends.
Oh, hello. I'm Alyssa. What's your name?
Hi Alyssa, I'm Maya. I'm new here.
Welcome to the After School Club, Maya. Aha! Here are the others. Let me introduce you. Everyone's very friendly here. Lily, this is Maya.
Nice to meet you, Maya. Welcome to the club. Nice to meet you too.
Lily is very polite.
I don't live very close to the school. I live near Kingfisher Park.
Kingfisher Park? We often go there at the weekends.
Yes, we sometimes play tennis there. We aren't very good, but it's fun. Alyssa is very sporty. And who is that?
That's Oliver. He's really shy. He doesn't like to talk much, but he's very funny.
He likes to read. He's very clever. Let's go and say hi.
Hey Oliver, say hi to Maya. She's new.
Hi Maya. Don't believe anything they say about me. It's not true.
What? Us? We never say bad things about you, Oliver.
So, is that everyone?
Me, Lily, Oliver. Someone isn't here.
Ahmed. Ahmed is always late. Ahmed. Ahmed is always late.
And here he is, Ahmed.
Ahmed, this is Maya. She's new.
Oh, hi.
What's the matter, Ahmed? You don't need to be so rude.
I'm sorry. It's just Mr. Wilson.
What about Mr. Wilson?
He always says, "Stop running, Ahmed. Slow down, Ahmed." He does? Yes. I'm sporty. I love running. But Mr. Wilson is always rude.
He isn't rude. I like Mr. Wilson. He's very helpful.
And funny.
Yeah, he's my favourite teacher.
Well, he isn't my favourite teacher. I don't like him at all.
Actually, I know Mr. Wilson.
You do? How?
Yes, I know him very well. He's my dad.
Well, he isn't that bad. I mean, I quite like him. It's just...
I'm joking, Ahmed.
You mean he isn't your dad? Oh. You're funny.
No, he isn't my dad.
That's good. Because he's super mean. Mr. Wilson is a mean teacher.
Actually, he's my uncle.
Good afternoon. And for those of you who didn't know, Mr. Wilson is in the building.
As Herbert said, the After School Club is levels 1 and 2 of options. Also in levels 1 and 2, we have an animated fantasy story called The Secret Spring. All you have to do is think of, Harry Potter to know how powerful stories are, particularly for teenagers. They have a really positive effect on the imagination. They help brain development. They help with communication skills, with instilling cultural understanding and values. Lots of really powerful reasons for using stories, especially with images or animations attached. And moving on to the next slide, please. Just a little bit of information about the kind of context for this story before we show you a bit of an episode. As I said, it's an animated fantasy story. It's basically set in two worlds. It's the real world that we inhabit, and there's this other forest world full of dinosaurs and strange animals. And it's about these two characters here, a boy who basically meets a young wolf who turns out to be a wolf girl. And it's about the adventures they have and the things they learn in the two worlds that they inhabit and that they experience together. And we'll look at least part of an episode now, so you can see how beautiful it is in terms of the visuals, as well as being very, well tailored for the language classroom.
Run, little wolf, run!
Whoa! Who are you? This is my house. Where's the wolf?
Where's the wolf? I'm the wolf.
What? No, you're a girl. Who are you?
My name's Jenna. I'm a wolf, not a girl. And what's this?
A dress. Your dress.
Who are you? Where am I?
My name's Aiden, and you are a girl. You're in the cellar of my family's house.
Let me out! I want to go home!
It's okay. Please, we can help you.
We? Who is we?
Me and my sister Victoria. Jenna, It's okay. You can come out. Please, you're safe here.
Promise?
Of course.
Okay, I think this is where we're going to have to stop. I can assure you we have tried this out with many learners, and they love the story, they love the animation. We're going on with another video genre, and we're also going to play you a very short extract of the clip. Only this is from a page that appears in every other unit. It's called Learning for Life. So this is actually always where kids first watch a video blog, a vlog, either with a girl presenter, a boy presenter in this case, because this is all about dream jobs and jobs they want to do one day. In this case, it is Luna's dream job. As you can see, they watch the video first, they're doing some comprehension work. Then, and this is good because so many of you mentioned collaboration, a bit on collaboration and how important this is in the world of work. Top tips for working well together in learning, but also later in a job. And finally, they work in groups and they do a project. Let me just play you just a few seconds from this clip.
Hello, I'm Luna. Welcome to my world. And today, I want to introduce you to... That's right, this vlog is all about my dream job. So, I know I'm only 13, but guess what? I already know what I want to be when I grow up. Can you guess? A police officer? No. A doctor? No. I want to be... That's right. I want to be a weather presenter. And do you know why? Because I love weather. I love the sun. I love the rain. I love the snow. And I really love the wind.
And so on and so forth. You can see that we're using lots of visual gimmicks to liven it up, and of course 13-year-olds love this kind of thing. So let's check where we are, what we still need to cover. We basically need to talk about how we can help them to study effectively, and as we said, teachers need a solution. Many teachers have told us that helps them to assess their students' competencies and language regularly and supports students learning individually. And that's the last point here is also something that adolescents need. They need help with how to study effectively because not many young people know how to study best. 2013 saw the publication of a seminal meta-study on learning by John Danlowski and others. And what they did was they analyzed the study strategies that students most commonly use. And what they found was that many of the study strategies that students use when you tell them, for example, to learn the new words or study grammar for a test and so on, that the study strategies they normally use are not very effective, and that, for example, study strategies such as rereading, highlighting, underlining, cramming, staying up the night before an exam and studying for hours are not very efficient. And they also looked into what are the most powerful study strategies. And what they found was basically two strategies are really effective. One is practice testing. Learning happens when people have to think hard. So when students do practice tests, research showed that performance, for example, on a final test was substantially greater after continued testing, where the results were 80%, than after continued study. Study would be a student sitting and reading and reading and reading again the same lists of words, for example, vocabulary. And the second thing is distributed practice, not studying just the night before a test, but spreading out the study time over maybe several days in a week for a shorter period of time each. Chris?
Good to me. Great. Okay, thank you. Right, now we're going to look fairly briefly at the digital package that you get with options. It's innovative and complete at the same time, easy to use and effective. If we can look at the next slide, please, just to have an overview. Okay, so just very briefly, to give you a snapshot, we obviously have ebooks for both the student's book and the workbook. We have cyber homework. This is something that can be done at home after every lesson to practice the key language that has come up in the book. We have a vocabulary trainer. This is something that reinforces and offers further practice for individual students at home in the key vocabulary from each unit, and they can do this talking about differentiated learning at their own pace, and it will serve them the words that they need to study more based on the things that they got wrong the last time they tried it. We have bottom right, the dialogue karaoke. This is a nice application that allows students, again at home, to practice their speaking by participating in a dialogue with the application where they play the part of one speaker and the app is playing the part of the other speaker. They can hear audio models, they can record themselves, listen back, etc. So they practice their speaking at their own speed. And then top right here, we have the personal learning track, which I'm going to tell you about in a bit more detail now. This is a really key part of the differentiated learning that students get from options that they can do at home. So we showed you earlier in the webinar lots of things that address differentiation in the classroom in terms of the reading and listening and speaking and writing skills, the different texts, the different optional tasks. Now we're looking at what students can do at home. If we move to the next slide, please. Okay, so the personal learning track, in a nutshell, it works in this way. There are basically practice tests for every unit. Going back to the two most effective study strategies that Herbert mentioned a couple of slides ago, practice tests and distributed practice or spaced repetition, they are very much reflected in how we've constructed this element that students use at home, this component that students use at home. So practice tests for every unit, then the personal learning track of personalized practice that focuses on the things that each individual really needs based on their test results. Then they take another practice test. They will probably see that they've improved because they've done targeted practice in the meantime. They'll get that little adrenaline hit of the dopamine rush of success. And then they and their teachers and parents can see how much they've done, how well they've engaged, and how well they've improved, how much they've improved. Let's look in a bit more detail on the next slide at how this works. But firstly, what this is built on is a very simple cycle of learning and assessment, which is really nothing new. It applies to anything that you're trying to learn, not just languages. You have an idea what you're trying to achieve. You have those clear objectives. You carry out some learning, some teaching and learning. You then assess, stop and check in whatever way. It can be the teacher in the classroom observing the learners. It can be through testing. But basically, you assess how things are going and where students are doing well and where they're not doing quite so well. So you see the results of those various types of assessment. You adjust the objectives accordingly, depending on where the group as a whole, but also individuals have got to. And then you carry out more teaching and learning, you assess again, you look at the hopefully improved results, and you keep going around that cycle. It's really important that this cycle happens regularly and often to be effective. This is kind of common sense, and it makes a lot of sense, and it's nothing new, this cycle. But if we move to the next slide, the challenge here, that bit in pink in the middle, the challenge is, how do you do this thoroughly enough, often enough, for all your students all the time, as a group of students, but also as individuals, because they all have different needs in mixed ability classes, which, as we've said, is probably all classes. So, the answer to this, we believe, and what we are giving you as part of the options package, is digital tools can allow this to happen in a way that is actually practically possible. And it wouldn't be without the help of those digital tools, without that technology. An important point is that this is not technology that replaces the role of the teacher in any way. It takes the weight off your shoulders so that you have time to do the things that you as a human can concentrate on, that you do much better than technology. The role of the teacher, your role in this, is still really important in terms of encouraging learners to actually go in and use this component in Helpling Z-Zone. The important thing is they actually engage with it and do it. But once they're in, then the system will take them through everything. If we go to the next slide, just to show you how this works on a unit by unit basis. So this is the cycle in every unit. So the far left-hand side, you teach the students' book in the normal way. The students use the workbook, the cyber homework at home. At the end of the unit, they do step 2, which is the first practice test, which tests them on the key language and receptive skills from that unit. They immediately see their results. Depending on their individual results as an individual learner, they're directed to the practice they need. It could be a couple of practice stages or just one, or indeed none if they get 100%. They then do a second practice test. That's the second red box. And then they are shown their improved results. And again, they get that dopamine rush of success, that confidence boost. The fact that this happens regularly and often over the course of a level, basically after every unit, means that they will very regularly see their improvement, and that will motivate them not just on that particular day, but in the long term over the duration of the course. Moving on to the next slide, and we'll just skip through the next few quite quickly. So a few key points here. This whole cycle actually is done online. As I mentioned, it's important for you to encourage learners to go in and start the process by doing the first test. But then the learning platform, the Helpling learning platform, will take them through the rest of it. Everything is automatically marked, the tests and the practice. So you don't have to spend hours and hours marking it yourself. The test results are analysed by the system so that the students are then given the work that they need in terms of the personalised practice based on their test results. Covers language and receptive skills, as I mentioned. More practice is given when necessary. Next slide, please. Again. Yeah, and they do their individualised practice. A key point here is that they don't waste time doing things that they don't need, because that is demotivating. If you're given things to do and you're doing it as a student and thinking, well, I know this already, it's a waste of time. So this system allows them to be directed to the things that they actually need help with. Next slide, please. Yeah, more practice recommended where necessary, not a particularly satisfied crocodile there. They get positive feedback, obviously, when they improve. And then moving on to the next slide. The end of the cycle is that second practice test. So you see the 4 stages there again. Next slide, please. Immediate feedback on a result, and you have a happy crocodile when they've done really well. The students got 92% at the end of their grammar track for this particular unit. Moving on to the next slide. It's really important that students and others with an interest, that's obviously you as teachers and their parents, can see how they're doing. So here we have an example of the view that an individual student has of how much they've done and how well they've done. So the traffic light system, green, yellow, or red, according to how well they've done something, and the circle being either complete, partly complete, or incomplete, to show how much of this they've done. So they can see at a glance, without going into loads of numbers, they can just see very visually how much they've done and how well they're doing. And moving on to the next slide. It's really important, obviously, that you as a teacher can also see how your class is doing, as well as individual students. So here we have a snapshot view of the whole class. You have the students listed down the left-hand side, the units along the top, and you can see again very easily, visually at a glance, how much they've done and how well they've done it. Next slide. This is the last slide from, well, it's penultimate slide from me. Individual performance, you can also drill down if you want to into more detail about an individual student. Here we have a student called Sebastian, and you can see for the different units and the different areas, grammar, vocabulary, listening, etc., how much he's done and how well he's done. Okay, moving on to the next slide. So just back, one more. Yeah, thank you. So what we believe is that this personal learning track will lead to more differentiated learning for the students, more personalized learning, therefore more effective learning, because it will help them with what they specifically need. But it will also save you loads of time as a teacher, because if you just think, how often do you give your students a progress test or a practice test? And remember, these need to be quite regular and often to be effective. So, maybe 10, 11, 12 times in an academic year that you give your students a progress test. Multiply that by the number of students you have in total across all your classes, and then multiply that by the number of minutes it takes you to mark just one test. Probably it would come to, over 100 hours that you might spend simply marking paper-based tests if you were doing paper-based tests. That's without analyzing the results, looking where individual students or the group as a whole need more help, finding practice material as a follow-up to help them with where they need that help. This is all done for you, and it's something that the learners, as I said, they do online at home. The only thing is that they have to go in and start that first step with the first practice test, and the system will take them through the rest, and they get given the practice they need, and then they get shown their success. And it's done in a differentiated way. So it's taking differentiation also out of the classroom in an effective way, saving you time so you can concentrate on those other things that only humans can do, like creating that positive classroom culture, etc., the things that we mentioned at the beginning. Okay, I think I'll hand you back to Herbert.
Okay, thanks, Chris. So there have been a few questions like, is there kill, or, are there real world activities, etc., etc. And of course, that's all there. We just didn't have the time to show you all these things, but let's have a look at a few pages. There is, of course, as somebody asked about this, there's culture. And there is culture in every other unit, actually. There is skill, and there is a video and a project and lots of thinking tasks about sustainable development goals, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, something that many teachers these days are very keen on doing for good reason with their learners. We have shown you the pages that are called Learning for Life here on the right-hand side. There's another one. But there are also pages called Learning to Learn that help students to reflect on their own study practice, where they also get ideas and tips on how they can improve their learning. Those of you, and from the feedback we've seen, there's quite a few who said, this is lovely, I want to know more. This is a way, maybe if you have your mobile phone or your camera ready, you can scan this, and this leads you to an interactive brochure that gives you a lot of information about options, and also contains examples of videos of the different video genres. It contains examples of the audios, especially also the grammar raps, and I think there is also a song there. Thank you so much for participating. I'm switching off our PowerPoint, and I'll hand back to Lucy.